So today, as usual, we will finish up. You all can hear me, no issue,
Yes, can hear you.
Clear, huh? All right. Today we're going to be finishing up our the part 4, which is the contractual matters, lah. Actually, not everything, lah, because we'll be talking about dispute and dispute resolution and all that in the last session. So there'll be something dealing with contract towards the very last class as well. So, yeah, so that will be the last thing that we cover. But we'll also be covering some of it today, okay? The reason why I haven't posted up the notes is because we haven't finished talking about that set of notes yet from last week. Because last week we took quite a long time talking about, we spent quite a long time talking about this a variation, and yeah, that sort of thing. So where's my notes? Contractual matters. Hey, pergi mana ni? Part 3. Where's my part 4? Yeah, there you go. Right. Look. Yeah, so we spent quite a long time talking about the other parts of the responsibilities, that is not really being strictly part under time, cost, quality. These are the other things that is equally important, but it's equally important, but then it is not really under that. See, they're under those category. So I put it under the others category. Let me share my screen. So, you all can see what's going on, huh? Not like last week after talking about it for 2 hours, then we realized that I haven't even shown my screen yet. All can see my screen? Yeah, on the wordings that you're seeing here is suspension of works, okay? All right, good. All right, all right, the main thing is, before I talk about suspension of works, I think these are the last few things that we'll be talking about. So let's talk about other parties that is in the contract first. We're talking about nominated subcontractors and also suppliers. These are the other parties to the project, okay? And besides your client, besides your contractors, besides your service provider, and your designers, in some cases you don't have a designer, it's just a simple or straightforward supply and delivery kind of contract. So yeah, but it applies as well in that sense, okay? Nominated is like subcontractors are usually engaged under contractors. So I think for those of you who are in the construction industry or related to the construction industry, this will make easy sense to you. So one contractor now, in the old days, you have a contractor that is not specialized, that you can really do anything, they have license, they can do anything. Then, there's an era, and we're moving into this era of specialties. And specialties are, we want people to be really good at the things that they're doing. And we want to engage people who can really give you certain kind of services in certain kind of areas. So we will actually engage the contractors now, or the service provider, or the builders. They are not really like general contractors or general service provider anymore. In the old days, you may have in the older days, maybe 20, 30 years ago, you can have a very big hardware stores that can literally sell you everything. And now we have very specific company that maybe do certain machinery supplies or certain kind of equipments, and we move into specialization. So for contracting, it's the same. The general contractor, yes, they can do a lot of things, but then clients do have a special requirement when it comes to, it's like just like human progression. Now we will, as we move up our development, move out our needs. In the needs, we want things to be more well done. We want things to be more, we want to be served by a proper expert, We don't want to have to, go to one shop and get everything covered in that sense. If you know what I mean, like maybe, 1920s, you can go to a chemist, for example, and they will be able to sell you medicine. They can also sell you drinks. They can even sell you ice cream, They are just like a grocery shop, you see. But now you have pharmacies and you have doctors, and then maybe 20 years ago or 30 years ago, when you go to a clinic, you can get almost all type of medicine. And in the 1970s, in the 1960s, you go to a GP, like a doctor, they can even help you to beranak, like have babies, and like deliver your babies for you. So, you don't really have, no one actually go and see a gynecologist, which is doctors who deliver babies, you see, or see women's problem, and then when you have surgery, almost any doctors are going to be taking out their knife and they can cut you, but not anymore, you see. Then we will need to see proper bone surgeons, or orthopedic. We may see children, special children. In the old days, you've got family clinic, which is supposed to be seeing somebody from 80 years old to 3 years old, or even a baby. They can actually treat you. So same goes, as we progress into our requirement, our needs as a society, there's more and more requirement for specialization. And subcontracting is one of that actually developed. This is one of the elements that is developed from that. So contractors become more and more specialized. Maybe they'll be more specializing in road work, or in civil work, or in structural work, or in healthcare facilities, or in building, piling, your technical. So you see, even engineers gets more and more specialized, not to mention people who are doing the job for you. So subcontractors, is not to say they are under the contractors. It's because of the client's requirement for us to bring in specialized people for their job. And that's why in a big project, for example, or in any development project, for example, you may not get one contractor to do everything, you see, that they can do from A to Z. So what they will do is they will actually engage another specialized people to do specialized kind of work. For example, telecom cable, telecommunication cable, water pipelines, road work, and the main con will only be in charge of all the structural work, including concreting work, and they may not even do drainage work, even though it means concreting as well. So they will give it up to specialized people to help them. So they will have another separate contract with their subcontractors. So we call it subcontractors, but it is not so much of a sub, as in they are actually at the lower end of the food chain, or they are not so great people, It's more like they are actually subspecialties in today's kind of language, you see. So, and they are more specialized. They can suppliers, they have very, very specialized supplier. They can also supply you certain type of machinery, certain type of materials, including work, including the fixing, including the including doing the work itself that is associated with that particular supply. For example, lightweight steel. For example, IBS, so your supplier can also be your subcontractor if they are also providing the works for you. Material is simply just material. Suppliers are usually just meaning supplier as in materials and goods. But for subcontractor, it could be material, goods, and some form of execution of work. So it happens in many contracts now, but our main contract never really talk about the relationship between the main con and subcon. We will always leave it under the responsibilities of the main contractor, or the main person who signed the contract with your client's company or the client's company. There is a special case whereby there is a nominated subcontractor or suppliers. These are actually generally appointed by the client. That means they want them to do that. They want the goods and services from that particular subcontractor. They they may be awarding the whole contract to a main contractor, and within that they will say that we want the nominated NS or NSC to be MCAN, for example. And there are people who supply the roofing, there are people who supply the IBS system, so we want their system. So they are very specific about that. And they have the right to do that because it's their project, it's their money. They want to cut it with anyone, that is their problem. Okay, so we've nominated, when we talk about the word nominated, it's not as simple as it looks like. I nominate you guys. It's not like nominating for a Oscar or something like that. It's actually, the word nominated actually really just not about selection. It's not about, I want this guy to be nominated. Nominated always, if we read the word nominated, it actually means that the contractors still have a choice, you see. Like I nominate this guy, and to be in my contract. But in real life, when you have a subcontractor and supplier nominated, this is usually a direct selection already. They want them to be in your team, full stop. There's no such thing as you can consider, you can think about it, and you can choose from the list that I give you, sort of things. So nominated is not like that. Nominated would be a direct, it's a direct appointment. And there is this relationship between the client and the subcontractor to some extent, but they are going to be under the appointment of the contractor. So the formality is, the informal bit is, I want this guy to be working. The formal bit is, this guy will be part under the contractor. So with payment, with everything else, it's going to be flowing like normal. How a normal contractor will treat the subcontractor, that is the normal way, like that contract the client don't disturb. But they can disturb, say, if let's say the contractor don't pay the nominated subcontractor, and they don't pay, so then the client can step in. So in this case, that relationship is a little bit closer than just a normal subcontracting. Okay. And client would, sometimes they would wish that let's say if the subcontractor makes mistake or problem or causes some issues to the main contractor, be there to be, they have more of a right to campur tangan, meaning they have the right to actually speak out, and talk to the subcontractors. In normal circumstances, where you have a subcontractor, the client will not directly go to the subcontractor or the supplier at all. Okay. Right. So why does client sometimes want nominated subcontractor, a specific subcontractor? Because there may be a requirement that they are very, very concerned with, or they're very, very specific about certain things, very serious about certain critical parts of the work, and they want to have more control over the selection of the people doing the job. See, so they are worried that you may get somebody not so qualified, because if you get somebody not so qualified, even though you have to ask for the client's permission to actually bring in certain subcontractors, especially specialized subcontractor, they may not like it, you see, so they want to be in more control, so they will ask specific. They will ask, they will want to select and specify their own sub or supplier, subcon or supplier. And sometimes they may want to bring in people because certain group of specialists, so that they can maybe cut down on the schedule, or they want a specific brand. So a very common one is they want a specific brand and quality of material, and then they are actually, or they have a very good relationship with that particular subcontractors who is previously their contractors in some other projects, and they really believe that they can deliver. So but the job, for example, the scope of the work is not like it's that kind of scope of the work of the subcontractor. It's actually a bigger scope of work. So they actually want that subcontractor to be on the team as well for certain parts of the work. See? So you may ask, if they like so much that I want you to that person as a contractor. No, because the whole project may be a lot bigger than just that subcontracting bit, that they are good at. See, so they will use this NSC NS format to actually do it lah. Huh? Okay. So again, the main contractor, you can profit from the subcontractor, meaning that you can mark up their prices. There's never such thing as, I nominate them and then I can't make money out of it. No, the contract is still between the subcontracting and the supplier agreement is still between the contractor and the nominated subcontractor or the nominated supplier. You guys understand, no? It's like contractually they are under the contractor. It's just that the client, because they are the one who nominate, they can actually put their foot in once in a while when it comes to very serious things like dispute items, delays, delays by their subcontractors. And then normally if it's an NSC, if there is a delay in supply of material or delay in work that is specifically caused by the subcontractor, then most likely EOT will be given, okay? And then say if the nominated subcontractor are not being paid by the contractor, they can step in and pay directly to the nominated subcontractor and override the contractor's payment, and then they can deduct it from the main contract as well. Some few things that the client will actually come into the picture and be more of a say, they have more voice in the NSC condition in that sense, right? So normally we just say we have domestic subcontractors, meaning that it's just very simple direct relationship between the contractors and the client, which any contractor, we can put it under domestic subcontractor. That is a formal name for it, but we don't call it domestic. It sounds like local or international. It's not like that. So anytime we have a contractor on site, to do specialized work for us, they are considered as just domestic subcontractor or supplier, which has a direct contract between the main con and the subcontractor themselves. So the client would not come into the picture and campur tangan or do more things necessary. Everything is any problem from the subcontractor under domestic subcontractor is the problem of the contractor. So if they don't do well, that means the contractor will get it. If the contractor don't pay the domestic subcontractor or supplier, that is between you and the supplier and subcon with the contractor. The client would not take any action at. So it's like my only point of reference as a client is you as a contractor. Whatever people you engage under you, they are just considered as your workers, as your team, as how you treat them, what you do, as long as it's not against the law, we wouldn't talk too much. Against the law meaning that maybe you don't pay them correctly, or you pay them correctly as in you don't pay the wage correctly. Government say 1,500 and then you pay them 900, So that sort of thing is against the law. If they go to a labor, if they go to complain in the labor department, you as a client will also get into trouble. So generally, in terms of law, we only look after that. Other than that, we don't mix around. We don't talk to the nominated subcontractor. We don't go directly to them and order them and ask them to do this and that and all that. No, because they are under the jurisdiction of the contractor. Okay. Named subcontractors is just like nominated, it's like in between. So domestic is like full responsibility of the subcontractor. The other one is, yes, they will look after the nominated subcontractor because they nominate them, it's very specialized. But a named subcontractor or supplier is usually they will give them a list. It's like a suggestion, I name these few people. So I name these few people, you choose from there. So they kind of like limit the selection of the subcontractor as well. It's also for certain quality purpose or branding purpose, or they want to work with certain people, they trust certain subcontractor as well. But they don't give a nominated, as in they just don't give you one name. They will give you a few names to let you select. But in the end, they are effectively the same as domestic. It's just that the client suggests their name. The selection still comes from the contractor. Okay, so these are some of these people relationship here. Okay, and I think I've spoken about this S4 as well, and it's about representative. Client will have their representative, and client representative is the SO, the superintending officer of the job, is usually a client's representative. Okay, and you know, we get this wrong assumption that the SO is actually the consultant or the engineers. In some cases, if it's specified very specifically, it is that way. But for most KKR contract or public works department sort of contract in Malaysia, when we talk about client's representative, we are looking at the director of KKR or the KKR's engineer is really your representative, like really the client's representative, somebody from the client's organization that is looking after the job. Then when this, let's say the JKR, obviously you cannot get the director, the name is director in the SO, but then there will be a SO representative. You're thinking like, funny, you know, it's a rep, you know, like people rep kind of thing. Yeah. But that is how it works. So the SO will usually be the client's representative normally. But in some contract, like in most contract, there will be directly just the engineer or the designer in the traditional general contracting format. There will be just the designer, the consultant engineer, the person who design and chop and sign the design. For example, IR, SAPA, you know. So IR with practicing certificate, those will be the SO. Okay, but SO, correct or not? Like, for example, JKR director, you see the director go to site and look at, you know, like supervise, you know, it's not possible. So then we usually have an SO representative. So same goes with the IR for a company. Let's say I've done a design, you know, I chop and sign design. Generally, you know, this IR of a particular company, they will generally have many things going on at the same time. And there will probably be like 5 or 6 projects or even 10, 20 projects going on at the same time. So they are, even though they're called SO, the SO name is there, but the most important person is the SO representative. And that is very important. SO representative usually will mean the resident engineer or somebody on site. Okay, and their assistance, and assistance bit is usually from the SO rep bit to the assistance bit, they are generally people who are on site. Okay, and these are the people that you need to communicate with. Okay, so I hope that it's clear to you all. I mean, like, does it clear your mind of something? So, for example, you may be asked in charge of the to be in charge of the project, like people like Jessica, you know, Ekaka, you know, Aslinda, you know, you are from JKR. So you are basically, if let's say there is no consultant involved, you know, so you will be the SO rep. So your SO will be your director. Okay, so you are the SO rep. SO rep is basically, you need to be, you know, you are actually representing the client. People will be looking for you from the other person's perspective. If let's say there is a designer involved in the job. There's a lot of jobs nowadays from PWD department. Some designs are actually in-house. So then that is very straightforward. The engineers in charge will be the person. So if the SO rep is somebody from the consultant firm, then that SO will be the representative. So not from your side, okay, not you guys. Okay, you guys are just I don't know, you guys actually consider as SO, I mean as the client now. I'm trying to explain it from different perspective. Let me get to my thoughts properly. Okay. First of all, let's say you are from JKR, from a PWD agency, so you don't have, I mean, like, your SO will be your director, and the director will appoint an engineer in charge. Okay, and in most cases, that will be the SO rep for the job. Yeah, especially if the design is done in-house. If the design is not done in-house, and this is a JKR project, then this SO rep will be the IR of the job, the person that you engage as the consultants, and then the rest of the other people, residents, engineer, and all that will be their assistant. Okay, understand? If let's say this is not belong to JKR, with JKR, there's this additional layer inside there. But with, let's say, job that is you engage an engineer or architect, then, in those contracts, specifically saying that architect or the engineer, those are usually the signing person, design signing person, okay? The client and the client's rep, that is, you are the client's rep. And then you, like, if you're working for a developer, you are the developer's representative. The client will still be your company, your bosses, and all that. The director of the company is your client. But the representative are the people who are looking after the job and all that. So you represent the client in that sense, but you are not the SO. The SO will be the engineers, the architect. These two, only civil engineers and architects are there. Unless you're doing a mechanical project, then there is another thing, or something else. You are doing a transmission or something like that. Then generally the engine. Again, we use the word engineer. We don't use the word civil. For most construction project, it will be civil engineers or the architect. Especially architect is for anything deals with structure and building. Then they are the lead consultant. So they will be the person in charge. They will be the SO, the considered SO. This SO, or they will just directly, instead of confusing everybody, they will just say that this is the engineer or this is the architect. But then they wouldn't have a proper, they wouldn't be, be there on site 24 hours looking after that one job. They will have the SO or the engineer's representative plus the assistant. Yeah. So there's two situations here. One situation where it's a government agency, your SO will be your JKR director, and your SO representative will be either you as an engineer in charge, or if it is a designer of some sort, then that designer will be the SO representative, because the SO always belong to the position of the SO will be always belonging to the director of JKR or director of DID or director of something, because they are the one that's going to be in charge of that contract. You guys understand or not? Yeah? Or am I confusing you guys? So just, I think, to make it simple, if it's a government agency, that particular position of an SO will be the JKR director. Then the representative will change. Okay, the representative will change. If it's like a consultant kind of project, then that will be your consultant engineers plus their assistants will be the RE and all that. Okay, and then if, let's say, JKR own in-house project, then it will be the SO will be still the JKR director, and then the representative will be maybe like you guys, engineers in charge, But engineers in charge, no matter what, is always clients under the client's representative. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so it make it simple in that way. So yeah, that one is belong to the category of the client side, where there's a lot of confusion, especially if it's a government, non-government, government-linked company, then the word SO kind of means differently, and then you get that confused, especially when there is an engineer, when you actually engage an external consultant, you see. And in some cases, if you're doing like internal kind of job, like, if you actually give it up to the external consultant, then a lot of people will treat the SO as the engineer involved. That the SO is the engineer, okay? But actually, for most government contracts, SO would still be the director of the organization. That's all, yeah? So does it make sense to you? Did I say anything contradicting myself? Okay. Yeah, especially people working for JKR, do you guys get this confusion yourself, issues? Like, who am I? Which position am I? Yeah. But always the most important person, no matter what, the SO is not so important. If you know what I mean. They are not the people who really work. If let's say it's a private sector or semi-linked government agency using the government contract, like let's say JKR, PWD and all that, they can choose to use that contract. That SO will be not the director already. That one will be the engineer, the engineer involved. The designer, the person signing, the drawings and all that, that would be the SO, okay, in that case. So that's where the confusion comes in. But in JKR, in any of the government agency, SO is always the director. The SO, they will actually appoint, they'll, of course, engage so many engineers, they will let you to be the engineers in charge. And that generally we use the word engineers in charge. Yeah. And then if it's an internal project design done by yourself, then you are the SO rep already directly. Yeah. But if there's another additional designer involved, then that designer engineers will be the SO rep. Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think that is the flow of things correctly. Okay. Right. So let me see if I can map it up a little bit more for you in the notes later on. You know, like that line of communication in that sense, lah. Yeah. But our job very simple, directly. Engineers, architect rep is architects rep is people in the on-site. On-site. That's it. Stop. Okay. Because the client has already appointed an engineer to be the SO, to be the engineer, or to be the architect, and they are the main person in the contract. Either the word SO, you see, SO, architect, and also engineers, they are always used interchangeably in terms of depending on what type of contract that you have. Okay, is it a private agency one or is it a government agency one? That only differs in that direction. On the contractor side, super easy. Contractor is contractor. Whoever your boss is, they are. The word contractor is the person who's going there to sign the contract, okay, or from the contractor's end. So they are the contractor. And the contractor representative are the one that is going to be engaged, the site supervisor, the project manager who are actually engaged under contractor. They are the representative. And how many assistants they have, or how many site personnel they have, is all under that contractor's representative. So it's very common for communication line to be established first in the early stage of the project. So let's say you are in the private sector. So the contractor will name that this is my representative on site, Mr. So-and-so, or IR so-and-so, or project manager so-and-so. And then, so they are the point of reference from the contractor side. Whatever issues the client have and all that, they will look for this contractor rep. So this contractor rep normally in today's world, you know, this is 2023, you know, so not 2003, you know. So 2023, the requirement of everybody in this era is very, very high. It means that these contractors rep must be able to speak English, must be able to speak Chinese, must be able to speak even, you know, and Daya or whatever, you know, preferably Bahasa, you know, but just joking. Generally in Sarawak, normally we will definitely be bilingual, meaning that somebody on site will be able to receive communication in two languages, that is English and Bahasa. In Kuala Lumpur side, in the West Malaysia side, depending, for private client, I think there will be still a lot of English in demand, but for government agency side, they are very, 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 very Bahasa based. So the BM based. Yeah. So depending on who is the client as well, then you know, there are also some requirements in speaking Mandarin and Chinese as well. Okay, so if you have a Chinese client, or you know, whatever, you know, for some reason the Chinese contractor, you are required to be able to speak Chinese as well. So yeah, so we are trilingual in that sense. Yeah. So for those contractors, you have issues. I mean, you cannot get somebody who can't even speak to go on site, you see, and then who can't even speak good fluent English to be on site, I would say. Yeah. So most of our engineering schools in Sarawak here, we are all trained, we're still very English based, because most people will still communicate with English. And even letter writing and everything is still in English. Yeah. So this is a very Sarawak thing lah. You guys agree or not? Those of you who are from West Malaysia, or you have any counterparts in West Malaysia, you realize that they are a bit more geared towards speaking and writing in Bahasa, isn't it? Especially from government agency. That's what makes it so special, you know. and we are all more trilingual in that sense. So yeah, they will specify that contractor representative must be bilingual normally. Yes, very important, because they are required to attend meetings, they are required to coordinate on site, they must be able to speak to the ground people, they must be able to speak to their assistants, they must be able to communicate also with the client and the designer side. So that particular contractor rep has a very, very important job. And then there must be, whenever you put that person as a contractor rep, most clients would want to see their name and qualification before they give approval. And they are there to receive instructions, they are there to coordinate with the client side and the client's representative side. Okay? And from the client side, obviously, if you are the SO or the engineer or the architect or the SO architect's representative and their assistants, normally you are also required to be bilingual, which is BM and English. Write and speak in that two languages. Okay? And then, because most of the communication has to be done in either one of this language. Follow up with letter, communication, minutes of meetings, all these things are in either one of this language. And most likely, I would say in Sarawak, still 70 or 80% of it will still be in English. So yeah, both sides, you must have that point of reference. It's very specifically point out in any contract. Is the person in charge, who is the officer in charge, who is the PIC here. Yeah, we will specify that very clearly in the contract, or even if it's not in the contract, then we will list it out during the first coordination meeting between the client and the supplier or the subcontractor or the supplier or the nominated service provider or the main contractor. They will specify who, and they will write down what is the communication line, like who is supposed to write to who and then CC to who, and whenever there's instructions being given by the client's by the SO rep here, the contractor's rep must be there. And when the contractor said that I want to do standing, I need to do some activities with standing supervision or some form of monitoring work or controlling work, we want the SO rep to be there. And who is this rep must be there. It's very clear. It doesn't change, and contractor cannot say, I don't like the SO rep and please set him. That doesn't happen. But the SO rep and the SO can actually tell the contractor that your rep is not functioning, your rep is not there all the time, your rep is not on site. When I need them to receive some instructions, I don't think he's effective, please remove him from the site. So, or if the rep is actually like the contractor's rep come in, getting drunk, picking up fights, but very rude and cannot speak proper Bahasa or English, then the client usually will have the right through their SO and the rep to make a complaint to the contractor, and if things doesn't improve, they can request for removal of that particular person. It's not so kind to do that, it's not a nice thing to do, but we will usually be, you don't simply, just because you don't like his face guy, or you don't like his style guy, and then you decided that you want to remove them, you see. If you don't agree with their qualification, you should say that in the early stage when they write in to tell you that this person is going to be the contractor's rep. So towards the end of it, let's say in the middle part of it, you suddenly decided that his qualification is not enough. Oh, that's too late, that is your problem already. You've already approved him, You said that you can't change it, but or you realize that he's actually not so good. But that's not true. His qualification is there already. There's a fact that this guy graduated from an engineering school, or he's a QS, or he is some form of professional, or he's been in the industry for many years. He's a qualified project manager, for example. So you cannot simply based on qualification kick people out of site. But the only thing you can really easily do removal of contractor's representative is not because of him not diligent enough or not qualified enough all these things will be very early stage of the project. You have to be able to tell and say that, no, I don't want him, okay? But when you're already moving into the project, in a few months already, suddenly you want to remove him. And those removal excuses or removal items will usually be based on behavior. A lot of behavior problems, a lot of proof, a lot of behavior problems as in criminal acts, he's been fighting, he's been getting drunk, he's almost set the storeroom on fire, and all these sort of things, or he's encouraging people to cook, on site and, and it almost caused a fire and that kind of thing. So more on the behavior, more on very, very serious behavior reason that you can actually ask for removal. If you say that he's not hardworking enough, the reason is usually not very good, because you mean by not hardworking enough, not due diligence. Not due diligence would mean that he really 30 days, 24 days is not on site. At that point, if you have the proof of his attendance, then by all means, I think you can, but if it's just once in a while, this guy is not on site, just because of once in a while you're looking for him and you cannot find him, it doesn't happen more than 2 or 3 times a month, then you cannot say that he's not hardworking, but the thing is, as long as he gets his job done, what do you take if he comes to work at 9 o'clock? It's none of your business in that sense, as an SO, or your SO rep. The most important thing is when you give instructions, when you want to talk to him with regard to the project or to settle certain issues, or that issue is very, very pressing, and he is not available, he's not there most of the time, then that is an issue. So this due diligence, this not so hardworking, these terms, you have to use it very carefully. It's written there, but it's not so easy to execute if you say that somebody is not hardworking. Like you guys, I can say that, if you don't attend classes out of 5 times and, you're not so hardworking, and should I just say that you are not allowed to sit for exam? If you are so clever, you only have to sit here, for 1 or 2 classes, and then you can pass, it's what have I got to say? You see, so in the end, it's the result. In the end, it's the work that is supposed to be produced. If you hand in your assignment on time, if you put in your work on time, we normally wouldn't want to say that, because you haven't been attending classes and therefore you're not here, I don't see your name here, you're so quiet in class, and therefore you're not good, you see. So same thing, we cannot, just because somebody is not present, but of course, if it's too much, like half a month here, he's not present, and most 90% of the time that you ask him to be there, he's not there, or when he's supposed to supervise certain things that he's not there again, then that is something for you to look into and for you to build up your case and write. You cannot just simply throw a letter to a contractor and say that I need you to remove your personnel on site, simply because it's not easy to find a qualified personnel, and he's already qualified in the first place. So then how? Then what if in 2 or 3 months the contractor cannot get another personnel? Then how? You see, so there's another issue. There's a lot of other issue ensuing. So you really need to give a lot of prior warning, a lot of cases, a lot of examples of how that you have been warning that particular person on certain things, Like I said, unless it's a very specific behavioral problem, otherwise, other things like diligence and hardworking, you need proof. You need a fair bit of cases to support you before you ask for that removal. It's one thing to say that the contract says that you are allowed to do that, and then the contractor must immediately replace. Yeah, but what if they cannot immediately replace? Contractual issues can be very, very long term. It can last you for years. You go to court can be years. Go for arbitration can be years. In a year or 2 to complicate things. But right now, the project is not moving because the site rep is not there, and you ask for the removal, for example. So you have to be very careful in handling your contractual clauses. A lot of these contractual clauses looks like 1 or 2 sentences, but the work that goes behind it to prove the case is not so simple. It's not 1 or 2 day, 1 or 2 incidences. We can talk about that a bit more later in suspension and also remedial, and also termination. Now, this three is also something that is not so simple as well, okay? Not as simple as what is written there in the contract, right? And the other thing is, okay, now, people, okay, we talk about nominated contractor, nominated suppliers, domestic subcon suppliers, name subcon, name supplier, contractors rep and all that, you know, SO rep and all that, and their relationship and the communication line and all that. So, okay, I think we are basically covering people all done already. Huh? So insurances is another thing. It's very, very common. You don't start a project without insurances, and there will always be involving two types of insurances. It's very, very common in Malaysia. I'm not sure about other parts of the world. Yeah, but most, like I said, Commonwealth-based kind of country, we're looking for contractors' all risk and workman compensation. Okay, so contractors' all risk will cover everything that is considered as works under the contract. Okay, meaning that if the work destroy some cables, or you destroy some existing structures, or you need to compensate some people for moving away, sort of things, contractors always will generally cover that. So the name contractor always is saying they have all risk, but read also carefully what is composition. Insurance company can be quite bastardy sometimes. They can make the word so small that you can't read it, and then you don't read it, you think everything is so standard, and 9 times out of 10 times that you go and claim anything under contractors or risk, they all end up not able to claim. A lot of bullshit from this kind of insurances, honestly, but it has to be there because that is by requirement. Most contract will have that requirement. The station, on the other hand, is a little bit better because it's very straightforward. It's like whenever these are the things in contractors or risk, plants, equipment, and all that. Whereby workman compensation is usually, it's very simple: accidents, safety of workers and employees on site, including both death and injury. That's a bit easier. Normally, if somebody cut his finger, somebody die, 2 years ago, we have a few cases of contractors, workers dying on site. Down and lucky. In my career as an engineer, this has only happened like 3 times. One time is many, many years back when I first started as a fresh engineer. Boy, was like somebody fall off from the water tower. They dropped down and and it's not committing suicide. That one is really accident. And it was a horrible time for everybody. Workman's compensation did pay for it. But not much, because the insured amount usually per person is only about 30K or 20K or something like that. Alive, 20K, 30K, it's not a lot of money. When you lost a finger or two, I think that one is probably about a few $1,000s. I've also have a case of somebody who lost his fingers. That one is because they are passing some pipes. They're fixing some pipes, and then the hands goes under the joint, and then accidentally, So yeah, that was really horrible as well. And then the recent 2 years, that one is because after COVID started work, and then we had a case of 2 cases actually. One case is not. If I remember correctly, one case is actually an accident, a car accident. Another case is actually on site that somebody was in the trench building the pipe. They're fixing the pipe, and then the fellow actually, there was some form of not erosion, because it's a trench, and then so there's some part of the soil fall off, and that guy got pushed to the other wall. You have imagine a trench, a pipe trench. So some part on one side, some earth fall off, and then that guy got hit and then got pushed to the other side. So it wasn't really an accident, but it was an accident, but the death wasn't very sure whether the fellow himself actually had an issue with heart, like maybe he is initially a bit sick, and then he, just by that pressure of pushing it. So I think in the end, they couldn't really prove whether it was an original heart issue that he had or the accidents that he had, when the saw actually sort of like hit him and push him to one side, So but because Park Trench is not very big, so we don't have that much of soil falling down. He's not buried for a long period of time or anything like that, and got suffocated, but he died anyway. So the time that workman compensation will pay. So you have to. It's easier for insurance company to pay out using workman's compensation, but contractors always, it is always. They will always find you an excuse that it doesn't work, like, or even if they have it, like let's say you accidentally dig a Sesco cable, which is like 15K penalty, but they will always have a cost that you have to pay the excess. So that excess can be quite a lot of money. So you probably end up not being able to get a lot of money back as well. The more the coverage sometimes is only like less than half that is being covered by the insurance. So, well, you cannot say that you don't want them, you cannot buy them, but it's always there. And that insurance policy always have to be put to the clients. Yeah, the clients is actually making sure that everything is well and not, if let's say in case of any problem, then there's some coverage of some sort. But both insurance would not pay out a lot of money. They're talking about 50Ks, 30Ks, that sort of things, yeah, normally. But it's also based on the contract sum as well. But the insured amount are usually not very high. Even though you have a very high important project, but then if one worker die, the insured sum itself, it doesn't sort of like proportionate with the number, with the contract cost. Contractors all risk is the same. Yeah, this thing. And contractors here want to actually talk about this. Nikma, you have any issues with insurances? Contractor?
Yes, we have. For this project, we have, Doctor. We have one situation where our barge transporting the excavator to the site. And during the installation of the submarine pipe, we try to put down the excavator, but unfortunately the excavator sink. So we have an issue, and then we submitted the claim to the insurance company. And at the end of the day, the insurance said we are unable to cover because of what? We got already 2-3 months back.
Yeah.
Because of part.
You see, even though they say they cover constructional plants and equipment, in the end when something like this happens, there will always be something inside there that tells you that they don't have to pay for it, right?
True. Yeah, because the insurance not cover the machinery. Yeah.
But suppose the contractors always is supposed to cover. That's why it's like all the fine prints. It's very difficult. That's why I think contractors always must be the best business for the contractors for any insurance company. Because they really, I've so many cases whereby people claim under contractors always. It's supposed to be always covering like construction of plant, operation, business, let's say business operation or the activities of the site, and all that kind of things. And then, or additional external things, for example, like let's say you dig a Sesco cable or telecom cable, the penalty and all that. This is to cover all these things. But I don't know why, and there will always be something at the back there that says that they don't have to do that, So something worth for me to study one day. I think maybe one day I'll look into contractors or risk insurance, and it's never been something that I've had many situations like that, but I never really sit down and look at any insurance company's contract with the contractors under contractors or risk. Like what you say, they will say that it's not covered, or they will say that because of certain reason, and therefore your machinery sink and you cannot cover for that kind of reason. Something like that. Yeah. It's just like when your phone company tells you that I don't cover if your phone got water, but then the thing is the water doesn't come from you dropping your phone into the toilet bowl, or you've been soaking it into your orange juice or something like that. It's not like that. It's just that maybe you go in the rain and then the phone got a bit of water, and then because of the rain, and then they would say that because of that water reason, then you don't get your compensation, or that they can't do it for you for free. It's usually the case. There's some fine prints that says that they don't have to pay for this and that, and they will put election serve on those fine prints. Now, I also recently had a case of an insurance company not paying because the machinery is that there was a structural problem caused by jaw tap problem, structure and jaw tap problem, because there was heavy machinery moving on the other side of the site, see, like let's say the neighboring property. And then it was proven, it was sort of like through some calculation, it was proven because of the heavy machinery moving in and out. It's actually a little bit like this, the case for the Highland Towers in 1993, whereby one of the issue was actually there was a lot of activities on the hillside surrounding Highland Towers. Highland Towers was in case some of you are not even born at the time, it was condominium in Kuala Lumpur collapsed, and it kills, I think, 40 over people, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, so it was one of the biggest case in Malaysia, and at that time I was probably maybe in my teens, I think, and we saw on TV a lot of experts coming in from France, from Japan, everywhere trying to search for signs of life, because people was trapped under the building. So that was also the thing about the site, the next door or the neighboring property or the neighboring land. They were doing some activities over there, and that also affected the condition of the Highland, the three towers there, you see. So in the end, they went to court, and it was proven, that was one of the reasons. It was, when you're doing Chalinga, or when you're doing some form of activity on the ground or nearby area, so that actually caused movement on your area, and under your soil conditions. And that one is supposed to be under contractors' own risk as well, in that sense, but then, yeah. So it's in the end, they have to go to court, because generally it was more than just some form of damage. So in my case here, because of some activities on the neighboring property, they claim for contractors' own risk, and they weren't paid. And now the client, the house owner, and the house owner wanting to actually go to court and sue the insurance company. So it's going to go up to that kind of extent, So then we have to kind of advise the client to actually look for a proper geotechnical expert, to actually do some soil testing and monitoring before they can submit the documents to the court. Yeah, if that's the case, then the insurance company will probably lose out in the end as well. Yeah, because they said that, it's none of their business, because it's on a neighboring property or something like that. There's a lot of, that's the thing, that sort of closes in there, that they can twist it a little bit here and there. So yeah, that was one case that we see that contractors always, again, is giving a big issue as well. Yeah. So the contractor for the neighboring property actually claimed the insurance company, and now the owner is actually going to go to court with the insurance company. Yeah. All right. And yes, that is one thing that I saw as well. Yeah. So quite common cases. Contractors will always not really paying. They're not really covering all your risks. That's where you put it. Okay. Yeah. So I think in your case also, most of the time the contractor will just forget it lah. How did you salvage your machine after all? Did it go into the riverbed? Did you manage to pull it out?
Yeah, we managed to pull it out. We lost around 50 to 70,000 to transport the second excavator to pull the excavator out.
Yeah.
70,000, doctor. Aduh.
Project pun takkan 70,000, sudah lost 70,000 kan.
True.
That where got so many 70,000 to give away for free kan?
Yeah, 50,000 banyak itu 50 to 70.
Yeah, that's a
We
lot of money actually. How big was the contract?
around 10, Doctor.
7 million
10 million, Doctor.
10 million.
We construct the water pipe, elevated water tank, and two elevated water tank. And we try to apa itu? We try to treat the air gunung for the rural villages, Doctor.
Is this under JBAP?
Yes, under JBAP. That white elephant project that you told a few last semester, we recovered that project.
Yeah. So is it white elephant? Do you think it's white elephant? Not all. I mean, some of them are actually white elephants. It's always the maintenance that is the hardest. Do you think it's a bit too difficult? Would they have any difficulties in maintenance, or you then leave to the people to maintain, right? JBAP will be taking over the maintenance, right? Quiet. Every line goes missing. Anyway, right. So these are some issues with insurances. So insurance is a must. It's under the law of Malaysia, the Workmen's Act and the subsequent amendments to the Act and the common law that you have to protect your site, your workers and all that. All right, and now let's move on to remedial action. Okay, let me go to the notes. When something goes wrong on site, okay, when something goes wrong on site, let me try to make this bigger. You can see, I'm sharing another set of notes now. It's under remedial actions. Can you see the word remedial actions, guys?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, right. So remedial action is when a party, one of the party is doing something wrong, such as something as simple as NCR, like non-conformance report or non-conformance, and that result in a non-conformance report. You see, and if it's case of NC, meaning that it's also some form of a breach to a contract. So there's a few types of remedial available, okay? And the remedial available meaning that what can the other non-breaching party do? Like let's say if you're from the client or we are the contractors, the other party actually did not follow the contract or did not behave as they should have behaved according to the contract. So what should you do? What can you do? Okay, so remedial are remedial actions that you can help yourself, you see. By specific performance, normally we will say ask you the NC and the NCR, for example, is request for a specific performance, meaning that they want you to do repair. Okay, they want you to do repair a certain action to cover or to improve on the situation. Say there's a contract delays or whatever. If they ask a specific performance, then it will be you must bring in more ka, or you must check off ka, or you must add in strengthening ka. So these are very specific type of performances. This remedial to perform your obligation. So NC, in the event of NC, when you issue a non-NCR, it will always be asking them to do specific performance to actually improve on the situation, like bring it back to its original design, or bring it back to what it's supposed to originally look like, or supposed to originally perform as it should be. So specific performance is quite common. Okay. Then we will also have monetary damage, such as LAD, liquidated damage. So meaning that you need to pay for the damage that is done. As in, I ask you to come and do your thing, you don't do it, and then I get somebody else to come and repair, and then I need you to pay for it, for example. So that is damages. But the most common damages, we talk about damages, they are usually in terms of dollars and cents, money form. So without any money form, any money losses, you cannot execute these damages. So liquidated accident damage is actually for time. So if let's say if you don't perform within a specific time, the remedial action is to charge you for the amount of money I lost in over the period of time. So usually they will be stated in a contract what is the LAD amount first, let's say per day, per week, per month. Okay. So those, one is by performance, one is by damages. Damages means dollars and cents. Okay. And the issues of, let's say you get somebody else to come and do the job for you. Say you got somebody to actually come in, another contractor to come and do the job for you. It's not so simple also, ladies and gentlemen, especially for those of you who are actually looking after the contract or after the on-site itself. Don't simply just because of one NCR and then he hasn't react, then you go and get somebody else to come and do the job for him and then you charge him. It's not so simple. So as contractor also, when your client talk like that, you also know it's not so simple. First and foremost, they have to prove that you have no ability to do the work. And then you must know what is the damage amount. It cannot be the other party part one day 5,000, you also charge 5,000. It's not like that. You don't have to be agreeing to the damage amount. The damage amount has to be confirmed, agreed upon by both sides. So it's like, I've been asking you to do many times. You've seen many letters I've been giving to you, and it's been 2 weeks and there's no action that is done. So now, if we get somebody else to do it, this will be the charges. Would you agree to those charges, for example? Then, if he still doesn't do it, and then he didn't agree, but you already mentioned, you already told him that this will be the charges involved. I mean, like, it'd be crazy for the other side to continue to keep quiet. In a lot of sense, some people like to, it's a very Asian culture, not only in Malaysia, all over Asian country, we like to use our silent as gold kind of thing, like keep your mouth shut and don't respond, and then hopefully everything will be over in the next 2 months or something like that. Not like that, So if you write consistently, if you inform consistently, you put it in your site daily record that you requesting this NCR to be executed, it is not executed, so you'll be getting somebody else to do the thing, and that is the damage. That is a loss amount. So yeah, you first have to confirm. There must be sure that he's not doing it. Number two is when somebody else do it, that the other person must be allowed to, must give permission. And that permission is very important, because why? Common law would say that if, let's say, I'm a contractor, you come and disturb my job, at the end of the day, I could say that the whole system failed is because of the other contractor come and disturb my job. See? So if you don't give a proper permission to the client to get somebody else to come and do this part, it's very dangerous. In the end, if there's something wrong with the systems or something wrong with the overall performance, the contractor can come back and say that the other guy's word is not my word, it's none of my business, that kind of thing. So then you will have a separate, another issue, another area for dispute, you see. So 3 elements must be there. First, he really cannot do it, or he's not wanting to do it. Number 2 is the amount of damage that it must be confirmed. And number 3 is whether they give the permission or they allow you to do it or not, to get another party to do the job. And who is going to be responsible for the part that is done? Is it the new contractor or is it you yourself? So sometimes one contractor on site is the best. If you want to get somebody else in pattern, you get somebody else or some treatment or some other group of people to come and do the job, you have to be very careful that this may come back and bite you later on. Okay? Especially in terms of warranty, guarantee, responsibilities, and all that. The system, everything is fine, then it's fine. But if something is wrong, then this guy may push the problem. Your original contractor may push all the problem to the new contractor, and the new contractor say, I don't know. You ask me what I do, and then I cannot give you a warranty over this stretch only. It's like no such thing. Blah blah blah. It's the other side's problem. So you got a three-party. The chicken talk in the chicken language, the duck language, and then everybody start to quarrel, and then no answer. Yeah. So this is quite an issue. So, like I said, this is like trying to tell, especially people who are PIC for any contract, don't simply use this sort of, even though it's stated in the contract, especially most contract in Malaysia, they are very client-sided, especially in JKR, in the PWB, in the Public Works Department, such as BID and councils and all that. They may all seem to be very, very sided towards the client. But when you bring contract like that, without the relevant documentation and proof and actions that you've been talking about, warnings and all that, you bring to the eyes of the judges, the common law, it is actually not based on the principle of natural justice. So many cases like this, you may be on the losing side, even though it's stated in the contract, because it is known that our contract is actually more client related, more client friendly. From the years of studying contract, I can tell you that it is client friendly. It may look like everything is sided to the client, but if you go to court with this sort of contract, you may be on the losing side. Okay. And other type of things is remedial actions is like rescission. Rescission is you can terminate the contract, yeah, but we'll talk about that in terms of termination later on. Okay. So if you really come to a situation whereby this person is really not performing and you need to really overall need to change contractor or stop the contract, this is one remedial actions. But again, not so easy. How you have to go through certain processes and procedures, and then need to calculate all the damages and who to pay who in the end for you to do rescission. So rescission is like a termination, so terminate the contract. So this one I will speak about it in termination a little bit more later. Injunction is like a court given what you call order for you to not do something. For example, you cannot court order for you not to do the work, or a court order for you to not take the document out of the site, court order for you not to enter the property at all. These sort of things are usually because you may have a bit of, sometimes you meet some sang, some hooligans, and then some contractor, they go and get their some sang to come to the site and try to make problem, etc., and so you can actually get court injunction. It's an injunction relief to prevent these people from coming to site, for example, so that you are not going to be further threatened or blackmail or be hurt or be damaged by their actions, that kind of action. So usually you have to go to court to get an injunction relief. Many areas that you can get injunction relief. So it's a court order to require a party to take or refrain from taking certain actions. That it could be also take some actions, meaning that they are forced to do something, to rectify or etc. So in the context of contract, injunction relief may be sought to prevent breach of contract or to enforce specific provisions of the contract. Yeah. So you can get a court order, not only just like payment, you can get a court order payment, so that is what we call injunction. Injunction means like intervention by the court already. Right. So the court may issue an injunction to prohibit the certain party from engaging in certain activity or pick up certain actions or for a specific period of time. You cannot have a full injunction, like an endless injunction. Okay. So yeah, like these things can be more commonly seen, not so much in construction side, but more commonly seen if there is already a dispute, and if you're going for court or going for a court dispute or going for litigation or going for arbitration, and then you can get injunction relief, meaning that everything on this side, the contractor cannot remove until this is over, or they cannot go in and take any contract document, or the client cannot go in and take documents, drawings or whatever from the side office, for example, in case some people may want to destroy the documents or whatever, especially when the things are already in the dispute resolution procedures. So injunction relief is more seen during that time than previously, like in the case of when the work is on progress, we don't really do that, see? And of course, it's more common in social cases. For example, your life is threatened, or like I said, the contractor actually bring in some samsang, to the site and try to take away the machineries or whatever, or they want to, because the contractor hasn't paid, they don't want to work, they want to take away the machinery and all that. So you can actually induce injunction. So more when your life and property are actually in a bit of a danger, then we talk about injunction now. But yeah, it's not like so easily executed. You're going to court and get that. Not something that is easy as ABC or going online and order Grab. Not so simple lah, huh? Yeah. So yeah, so it can be a very powerful tool in for enforcing contractual obligation, it sometimes can be more effective in that sense, like, because it's actually quite strong thing when you receive a court order, you see. Yeah, so especially when there is more, more of an irreparable kind of harm that is being done, say, in the situation. So we, like, when you can say that, let's say, it's more common when, like, we see injunctions more common when, like, let's say one couple are getting divorced, and then the kids are like, who is supposed to take the kids and all that. Then the father is not supposed to come near the earth, let's say the father is being abused, I mean, the mother is being abused, with the kids, and then there will be injunction, meaning that the father cannot come near them in a few kilometer radius and all that kind of thing. So those are quite commonly used kind of tools for sort of purpose. Yeah. A contract, like I say, is usually during dispute or there is some form of property, life and life threatening cases and all that, then we can use injunction. Or especially in dispute, like I say, the documents and all that, there will be an injunction order not to take out certain documents and all that. So yeah, this is a remedy that reformation is a remedy that allows court to modify the term to reflect the true intention of the parties. So this would usually means that during the early formation stage of the contract, something has gone wrong. There is a misrepresentation, there is a problem with the contract. I think Dr. Bruce already explained about misrepresentation and mistake. These sort of things. Something is there that both parties overlook, or something is there when one party knows about the mistake and the other party doesn't know about the mistake and found out later. Also these are like unilateral or lateral mistakes and all that, or misrepresentation can be even up to a case of criminal. For example, you totally misrepresent this is a con job, there's not supposed to be a contract, but you said that there's a contract. So these are the kind of clauses. You can actually go and change the clauses. You're actually going back and say, now it's not fair, that we saw the issue already, that let's sit down and rewrite the contract, or we go through the contract again and modify the contract. But this is also done legally. It cannot be just you and I sit down and say that, let's change, So the whole processes of reforming the contract is one type of remedial actions under the contract. So this also can be happening for service provider, more for service provider, and also say supply contract, production, supplies and all that. And then you have this sort of reformation that is a bit more common compared to construction. Construction definitely damages and specific performance are quite normal. The rest of the other three is rescission is normal, can be done. Reformation injunction is a little bit tough because it involves a whole court and legal procedures to be in place to redo everything. Yeah. All right. So this is on injunctions and on remedial actions. So say, in the event that something is happening on site, okay, and let's say there is a delay. Okay, let's talk about suspension. One action that we take. Suspension, can it be a remedial? It's not really a remedial, but it's not considered as a traditional remedial area, but it does sound like it's a remedial action. Okay, but it's about it's actually separate, okay, I've got this specifically written here because I want to explain this. So suspension is like when there is something that is not done properly on site. We have a suspension of work. But suspension of work is not a remedial action in contract. It is just one of the item within the contract itself that you can exercise, that is available as an option to the other party. Okay. Yeah, I think because remedial is like there is a breaching and non-breaching party, whereby suspension can be a very common issue that you need to suspend the work, and it's anybody's problem. Okay, so we explain this in two ways. One is when it's somebody's problem, and one is when it's nobody's problem. And mostly when we execute the contractual right under the option of suspension, is nobody's problem. It's generally like something else is caused by other things, not from the party themselves. So, for example, when you have a pandemic, okay, your problem is a contractor's problem, it's not a client's problem. Nobody wants it, you see. So when COVID-19, work was suspended on site. Okay, it wasn't terminated because we still want to come back to it. So it's always a succession. Succession means that you temporarily stop performing all your obligation on the site, on your project, when the situation calls for it. So it could be due to like the pandemic, it could be due to natural disaster like flooding, like high water table, like accidents, like for example, like very serious situation, like let's say Nickman's situation where the machine dropped into the river, and then that is the only one that you have, you cannot salvage it, and then we need to wait for the new machine to come so we can, and you need to call for suspension. So it won't always be something that is a lack of resources, some worldwide lack of resources. Let's say because of the Ukraine war, you don't have certain supplies of certain equipments or material or something, or there may be a strike. There may be strikes from the carpenters, or strike from the workers, or the strike from the transporter. Strike from transporter is very common, meaning that the lorry driver and all this, they don't want to work, unless you pay them more. So situation like that, where both parties are not really having a big deal, with one another. I mean, like they are not like breaching the contract or something like that. Then it is okay to call for a suspension. And suspension, it has to be agreed by the two sides. Okay, so it's like an unexpected issue on site that needs to be resolved before the work can continue. Example, again, let's say there was a misrepresentation or there's a mistake in the contract, you need to reform the contract so the work can be suspended. It means that everybody can stop and not do anything, not need to fulfill the time will stop at the moment. The clock is not ticking. You press stop and then let us sort out everything first before you proceed again. Okay, so this one here will need both sides to agree and both sides to one side to give written notice, another side to agree to that, and then the period of suspension and all that will have to be very clear and order, and when to resume work. And then when you resume work, if there is any damages to the things that is being built already, or that there's damages to the machineries, equipment, or material, who is going to pay for it, etc., etc. So that kind of situation, it will need to be mapped out first before the actual work is suspended. So the term and condition for the suspension must be outlined carefully. It will usually be outlined in the contract itself, but not necessarily. But if it's not necessarily, then you have to fall back to the general standard, talking about suspension, the things that you need to cover, and then you need to write to each other, and both of you need to agree on that. But a notice is definitely required, and then the type of the roles and responsibilities and all that needs to be agreed upon as well, and the procedures later on to resume work is also needed to be in place as well. So let's say we'll suspend work due to pandemic. So the issue now with all the pandemic work suspension is because it was so sudden, and there wasn't much room for people to negotiate on the suspension issues and the contract, the conditions and all that. So that's why there's a lot of work that was suspended during the MCO, and when they come back and start to do the work, there was many disputes over it, meaning that some clients say, I want to charge you LAD because it's actually delayed, and then some contractors say that, that's not fair because suspension is supposed to stop the work. So all this was not previously laid out, like written down before, agreed upon before the actual suspension actually happened. The biggest issue with suspension during COVID was because it wasn't properly spelled out. And then because it was something very new, we don't really have this happening every year, or, for the past, since World War II until now, I don't think there is much project that is like that kind of situation whereby there's a sudden suspension of work. So it gets so many people don't know how to handle it. Like let's say JKR don't know how to handle it, Public Works Department don't know how to handle it, contractors don't know how to do it, and then the private developer also don't know how to handle it. And there is no proper guidelines, there's no proper SOP for it. Then everything is based on the individual or the organization that is executing these sort of things. So we get a lot of these voices of dissatisfaction about resuming work after suspension. And some contractor may say that I don't want to come back to the work unless we are very clear what am I expecting, for example. Like, don't tell me that I have to repair all the things that's been broken. I have to come and repair all the materials. I have to bring in new materials. Who is going to pay for my losses? Let's get that settled first before if they're smart enough, that's what they will do. They will negotiate first before they come back. Okay. And many clients, like I said, they don't know how to handle it, and therefore they will handle it in a very, very, I would say in a stupid way, but it's actually handled in a very disorganized manner, and causing a lot of dissatisfaction and a lot of dispute and a lot of issues that ensue after that. See, so I'm not sure whether you all felt that way. Yeah, I mean, that is what we see from the suspension. And there will always be, in other cases, for example, suspension by the contractor because of non-payment or late payment. You don't pay me, you don't pay me, you don't pay me. Oh, so I cannot tahan already. You have to pay me, you see. Otherwise, I have to not work anymore. This is a very dangerous situation that you have to watch out for, because suspension is not something that from contractor side you can just call for suspension. Again, it needs to be many written notice. There must be a proper provision. If there's a proper provision of payment in the contract, that's a lot better. Like, for example, the payment schedule, the due dates, and what are the other procedures that are available for addressing late payments. If you haven't executed all this, you cannot directly one fine morning you wake up and you say that I have enough and bye, I'm going out. You see, you cannot do that. Okay, because once you've done that, once you suspend the work without proper notice, without referring back to the original contract and exercise all that you can within the contractual obligations and duties, it's written there. If you call for it as like that, it is very dangerous. Later, when they pay you, you have to resume work, and you may be charged for LAD for purposely not coming back to work, or they can say that you're not working with due diligence if you don't have this sort of, meaning that they will accuse you as a contractor saying that, look, you haven't been coming to the site, you haven't worked, you have been not, you have no people working on site for the past 5 months, for example. So you haven't been working with due diligence. So now I'm going to terminate my contract due to your breach, you see. So it can be you can become back that way, right? So contractor going for non-payment as an excuse for suspension of work, you have to be very clear about the clauses, and most of the government contract, they will not actually specify that very clearly. So you don't have much of you really don't have much of room for movement in that sense, you know. So I mean, I've got some examples here on suspension as well. Yeah, so I'll combine these notes later. Okay. Yeah, so if the contractor chooses not terminate the contract, if the non-payment does not constitute a breach on the part of the employer, usually non-payment are not constitute of a breach yet, you know. So you have to bear it in mind that when you go for dispute and say that they are not paying you, when they say not paying you, it has to be over a very, very long period of time, you know, even up to a point that the contract is already finished. Like let's say the due date is already finished and they're not paying you, and that sort of thing is called non-payment. If it's late payment, it's a completely different issue. So you need to know what is in your contract talking about late payment. Okay, so generally you don't, especially with government contract, you don't have the right to suspend the work, you know, when the employee themselves are actually failing to make the payment due to the contractor, or make it on time, or clearly it's a late payment. Okay, so because in a construction contract, there's a very big clause that says that you are supposed to progress the work or work on the work regularly and diligently. So any suspension, it becomes a breach on your part, because in common law, you are not entitled for contractor to breach the contract. Okay? You're not entitled for contractor to suspend the work just like that, you know, based on that, for no particular reason. I mean, suspend the work because of some common reason, yes, but suspend the work because of late payment, no, you see. So if there's no express terms and clauses of a suspension, you cannot just simply suspend the work. Okay, so but if the non-payment is becoming so serious, you may choose to get all your documents ready, ask for the payment, consistently ask for the payment, write to them about the due date and all that before you can go in and directly sue them for non-payment or termination. Go for termination. Don't alang do suspension. If you do suspension, like I said, you can, but I mean, like, you're not supposed to, but if you have enough of proof, enough of reason, my advice to any contractor is don't just pull everything out from the start and suspend the work. You continue to keep a minimum level of people working on site to show that you are I'm still doing it. You know, I'm still coming here regularly, but you can move your things away, go and look for other opportunity, but don't just simply, gone. You see, that is one thing. And on the other hand, client also like to say something like this. You know, that because of NCR, because of non-conformance, and then after issuing the NCR, you're not doing your work. You know, if you like that, you continue to make the mistake again and again, or you keep on doing the same problem, or you keep on having this quality issue, we cannot allow that. We will suspend your work. Again, that is not right. Suspension of work is not to use like this. Okay, so don't tell your contractor you will suspend his work based on quality issue. Again, you will also have to have a lot of proof, a lot of calling for non-conformances, a lot of, you know, getting them to do it, and then they're not doing it. And then you may be better off, again, just terminating the contract rather than suspension of work. Okay. So in a way, if you suspend the work for no reason, in a way, it's no reason. Okay. Because there's no validity in the reason. Okay. So basically, suspension is usually the valid reason is external factor, not internal issue, not quality issues, not contractor, not client not paying. Contractor failure to work with due diligence, that is another way of suspending. The client can say that they can suspend, but then that would mean that if the contractor is there working, you see his people there, you cannot say that he's not working with due diligence. You see, his due diligence is very difficult to prove as well. You see, so like I said, quality issues, they're not doing your NCI and all that, you want to suspend is not a reason for it. Okay, so suspension has to be treated with care. Normally, like I said, it's only for external factors. Okay, so yeah, so construction delay, it can be very expensive. Yeah, so yeah, then you need to work out a few things: time losses, money losses due to suspension, and who is to pay who, and who is be responsible for the time loss, who is be responsible for the cost money losses that is there, after the work has been suspended. Okay, so not so simple. I'm telling you, not so simple. Yes, definitely. What I'm telling you not so simple is because I want you all to be very careful with your behavior and with your actions and with the way that you conduct yourself on site. Many of you are actually considered as engineers who at least work with 5 years experience. Many of you, of course, you are still very new to the industry. There's a few that's very new to the industry. There are a few that is already like 5 to 10 years, and there are people who are maybe 30 years in the industry in this particular case. So in this particular class, then, I don't want you to behave like a fool, always think before you talk. Think carefully what is the consequences of your very, very angry words or very, very angry actions, you see. You are not talking to your mom and dad, that they will forgive you for any harsh word that you used, when you are angry or when you are pissed off, when you're losing your patience over certain issues, you shouted, you threaten, you say something, or use certain word like suspension, or termination, or I want to remove you, kind of. It's not so simple. In the end, you'll be making yourself a fool because you only threaten, and that is like the thunder is louder than the rain. There's no rain coming later. So you'll be looking really stupid if you've been talking, like saying all these words, but yet in the end, you cannot follow it through with real action. If you pandai, you have the power, you have all the knowledge to execute suspension or execute removal, then you do it. Okay, you only talk when you are really, really, really sure. You don't talk when you are still not even know what these words mean. So better off, no matter how impatient or how angry you are, swallow your words first before you make any empty threats. Okay, and some of these empty threats may come back and bite you because, like I say, you say removal, you say removal of workers, you may suspend your work or terminate your work, then they can come back and bite you and say that, you damaged my reputation. I've been working diligently on site. Now I'm suing your company for destroying my good reputation of my company. You cannot simply suspend my work, and who's going to pay for the suspension after after you sort out everything, and then who's going to pay for the loss? Who's going to pay for the loss in time? You haven't got all these things worked out. You cannot simply use it. Even if you want to use the word suspension and termination, you have to do it in proper written notice. And it must be a lot of prior warning to it before you can actually even talk about it or think about it, you see. You need to really, really think about it for a long, 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 long time. Do, work on it before you can actually execute it. Okay. So again, always fall back to the contract documents. The procedures is always fall back to the contract document and see what is stated inside there, what kind of mitigation actions and what kind of responsibilities and duty each party have. And then after that, when it's not covered, then we'll go for the second step, general ones, that is applicable for the normal industry situation. That baru go for the real thing, the real thing, a real directive or real a written notice on suspension. So when we come up with the written notice, it's already final. This is the decision, and we're going for it. I've got all the proof. I've got all the things that is ready. We know what to do. If the other side make noises, then we know everything. We know all the action plan that's coming up based on contract, based on court, based on any legal law of Malaysia. We know what we can do. So you have to be very sure before you open your mouth and start to shout, this kind of things. Yeah. Right. So there's a case of how I've given you some cases of how the court treated suspension. Okay, so I think you read through this, not much of an issue. Then termination. Okay, termination is like a whole different, it's like a similar to suspension, but this is really to, end the contract. Right. So termination. There's a few types of termination. Termination for a cause. Okay. Termination for a cause meaning that one party breached the contract. Then the other party terminate the contract as a result. So it has to be a very significant breach. For example, non-payment is a breach. Let's say it's a breach, then you terminate, you don't suspend. Then if let's say the contractor not following orders, not work with due diligence, or not do what is needful, and then there is a quality or integrity issue to the final structures for the final projects, then there's a terminate. There is a breach, and that breach can make you go for termination. This is like a rescission remedial action. Termination for a cause, for a reason. Termination for convenience is whereby it will usually follow maybe a suspension due to natural occurrences or certain events, and then you want to terminate it, for example. So it's like for both sides, it's been dragging on for too long, so it's not practical anymore to revert back to the contract. Okay, then we can use termination by convenience. So there's no breach on either party. Yeah, it's just that there may be, like I say, scope changes, requirement changes, or some unforeseen circumstances that is lasting for too long, like an earthquake, or pandemic that is going on for years, for example, MCO that goes on for years. So in the end, instead of just suspension, we decided to just take out the contract, finish up, take it off, and then pay back the contractor as needed to be paid, and settle the accounts, and then hopefully when everything is settled down, then we will come back to it and then start a new contract. That would be termination by convenience. Okay. Termination by mutual agreement. It's a bit hard to define in terms of convenience and mutual agreement. So both parties agree to terminate the contract before its completion. So it must be done for many reasons now. So it could be the most common reason is the project is not needed anymore. It is not caused by anything, but it's like suddenly you realize that, let's say the client said, I don't want it anymore. I don't think this is feasible for my company, or this is not something that we need, for example. Like, for example, they are building their state-of-the-art headquarters, and then they decided, let's put it on hold, for example. And then you can seek for, in this case, is that the client don't want it, it's based on their own reason. So they tell the contractor, we cannot go on anymore. So the contractor, okay, let's do this. So it's a mutual agreement. Okay. Termination for impossibility or impracticality. This is natural disaster, government actions. Pretty much the same as for convenience. Then there's another one that is really by performance. So performance is like when the whole contract is ending already, finish all the contractual obligation is done. So this is the most common type, most happy ending, the most HE ending to termination. That one will be termination by performance, whereby the goods and services are being delivered already, everything is settled already, all the contractual application is already fulfilled already. You are being terminated because you finished the contract by performance. Happy. Okay. So these are the reason, or these are the type of termination you have. Okay. So it's important for both parties to review their contract, ensure they understand the respective obligation which constitute performance. Okay, what is supposed to be your obligation, what is supposed to be your performance before we release you. And if let's say there are other things that happen, for example, breaching, non-breaching, or mutual agreement, or natural disaster, or external environment, or government regulation change, or the client themselves just decided they cannot continue with the project due to financial reason or whatever, then we can go by termination by mutual agreement, termination by convenience, which is not so bad. But that one also need to have a procedures in settling, in valuing the work that has been done, and in paying back the contractor, and when they can discharge of their obligation, when they can take out all their machineries and all that, then it has to be negotiated. It has to be mapped out. It has to be all properly discussed and agreed upon before termination is being executed. Okay, so that will usually be the procedures. So again, don't simply use the word "I terminate you." You're not a terminator here. Okay. So yeah, so the contract can be brought to the end by performance. Okay, with no further actions is required. Okay, and then can also contractor can terminate because there's a breaching. This is about termination by termination by cause. Okay, and also many times we've gone through this. Okay, so these are pretty much the subsequent actions that needs to be following after the termination or before the termination. You need to be mapping out all these subsequent actions before you are asked to before the word termination actually are activated. Okay, right. So yep, I think that's it for me for today. Yeah, any questions that we want to discuss or that you think you want to discuss with us? Can we take a 5 minutes break and yeah, and then go and get yourself some fresh air, and then we come back, and then if there's any issues that you want to discuss on contractual matters, other contractual matters, or any of the time cost quality contractual matters, we can spend some time on it, and then we'll go to your assignment. Okay. Right. Anything you want me to discuss with you on the notes or the context of the contract bit of things of the classes? Well, I'll share my screen first. Okay. How come there's so little today? 2, 4, 17. Oh. Yes, Eka and Astinda.
Good afternoon, Prof. I'm Asninda.
Yeah.
Okay, just one question from our lecture today lah. It's regarding the NSC, nominated subcontractor.
Right.
Okay, you said that in that project I know that NSC is under WPC contractor jurisdiction under WPC under contractor lah. But if the project for contractor main scope is already finished, but still outstanding for NSC, the insurance for NSC is still need to on lah. But how about the WPC? If they already complete their scope, do WPC need to renew also the insurance?
Yes, because they are still under they are essentially under the contract. Because no matter what,
Even though the scope of WPC already complete lah.
yeah, it just means that even though the nominated subcontractors are actually nominated by the client, there are still the responsibilities of the main con. So if their parts are not complete, it will just means that the whole contract is not completed yet. So they still need to do extension on the insurance, correct? And in that case, of course, the client, they can negotiate with the client, but you just simply cannot not do the work without insurance. It's not healthy that way. If something really do happen, even if the insurance is already during the time that the insurance is already due and already lapsed, and the NSC are working on the site, and the site still belongs to the contractor. If let's say something do happen during that time when the NSC is working, then who's going to pay for it? Definitely the contractor will be the one responsible. So for the contractor's own good, they have to renew the insurance also, no matter what. But of course, they can negotiate with the client side for asking for extension of time. And also, your side should also grant them extension of time because, it's supposed to be nominated by you guys, you see? But the insurance, yes, definitely, they have to, everything else will be like normal. It doesn't matter whose scope is it, the whole thing is under the scope of the project, which is under the main con.
Okay, noted, Prof. One more question, Prof.
Yeah.
Okay, if the EOT is due to NSC late issuance of NSC lah, is it WPC can claim for the loss and expenses?
Wait, the question is to claim for the loss. So late due to what reason? Is it due to competency?
EOT, that EOT is only for open NSC. NSC reason lah, it's not for main con lah. But is it for loss and expense? Is it WPC valid to claim the loss and expenses?
Generally, no. They are entitled for EOT, but they're not entitled for loss and expenses. Unless it's very, very specific reason that to claim for loss and expenses, it usually would be, how to say that there are some specific reason for loss and expenses. It's not to say that, just because your subcontractor is not functioning, you cannot treat NSC as in the responsibilities of the mancon, in that sense. Because when you take this guy as an NSC, the mancon have to actually arrange their work also, and also to work with them in a team as well, because they are under the responsibilities of the mancon. So that's why I'm asking, what was the reason for the NSC to delay? So
It's
the reason for NSC to delay, was it because of material delivery, or is it their own incompetency, or what was the reason that they delay?
late issuance of appointment of NSC lah, something like that lah.
Late issuance of appointment
Mm.
from the
It's
client.
from client lah actually. It's because it's a bit unfair lah if WPC cannot claim the loss and expenses due to the late issuance.
In this case, yes, because if it's just like because of their incompetency or whatever reason, no, they cannot claim for loss. But if it's like case of if it's a case of like, client side is the one that is not appointing and not doing the final thing, then because the contract needs to be extended, and then in that they are incurring some form of insurance losses and all these sort of things, that yes, they can claim for the loss and expenses, because the issue is with the client. Loss and expenses normally cannot claim under change order. BO usually cannot claim. Under the contractor's issues, design issues also you usually cannot claim. But if it's a client's own, your own organization problem, like possession of site and all that, and also, like you said, late issuance of NSC, I think these are good reasons to consider to give loss and expenses, but have to be treated with care, The amount has to be agreeable from both parties. Does it answer your question, Aslinda?
Yes, Prof.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, what is happening with you two? Still doing your work or not on your RP? I'm a bit worried actually.
Ongoing, Doctor.
Always on the way, is it? Because you need to, don't just sit there and do, you have to talk to us, and then send some draft in. I can help you take a look and all that, because now between semester to semester is actually very short. I understand now everybody's busy and all that. But my advice is, if you're not comfortable with the speed of things, for example, say after this semester, there'll be a June semester coming out very, very soon after you finish exam. So I think the June semester will probably start very early. So I would suggest, if you guys are not comfortable with your RP, because if let's say you haven't done much now, even in this semester, because of all your other work commitment and your subject commitment, you're not ready for it, I would really strongly suggest that you will not even take it next semester also, and then just finish all your study first, and then take 2 semesters to slowly do your RP. That will probably work out to be better, okay? Yeah, Nickman, I have been hearing a lot of story about you, so your RP, register, tapi belum tengok siapa supervisor pun tidak tahu lagi. So if you guys have to be very careful, because if you register for a subject and you don't drop it on time, at the end of the semester, the result will be generated as an F. There's no way anyone can change that. I don't know lah. So far in my experience in Unimas, result changing is not something that we can actually turn around and make it something different. I mean, like can go in the computer and unless you go and get yourself a hacker from India or something like that, and then change it lah. Otherwise, I don't think anyone in the university has any power to go and change the results. So it will be an F. When it's an F times by 3 credit hours or 4 credit hours, that is like very, very low, your whole CGPA will be pulled down, until less than 3, So if it's a 2 CGPA, it's okay, like you fail F, F is, if you get 60, there's 3, it's about 3, I think, 2.67. So if you get an F, it's worse than if you get a D, D, at least you get 1.6 something, the CGPA. F is like almost close to 0. So that means you plus everything together and divide by the number of credit hours. Your CGPA for this semester will drop, so you have to be very careful. Once your CGPA drop for 2 consecutive times below 2, the whole system will automatically gagal berhenti you. Okay, so yeah. At least if you cannot finish, at least try to get an F. Don't get an F. F is really bad. Just get a D or fail also don't fail until so badly lah, Okay. So Eka and Asninda, you can consider lah, if I feel like maybe if you're so not clear about the direction and all that, just graduate a bit slower. It's okay. Just finish up all your subject first. Next semester, I'm not sure whether it's a good time because you've only got 2 electives, if I'm not wrong. So then you can pick up your RP during then, or just finish all your study punya subjects, exam best punya subject first, and then the last 2, I mean, like you've got 6 semester, the 3 semester you successfully pass through everything, get good CGPA, and then on the 4th and 5th semester, then we sit down and concentrate on your RP. Then it may work better for you all. Okay, some of you who are in that situation, you can think about that. What about like Shasha, and the other day you're talking about Brenda? How's your work progressing with Dr. Ambrose? Any issue, any problems?
Dr. Ambrose checked my first draft already lah. So far he said on the right track, just that I need to add in more literature review.
Yeah, okay. So remember you only have about 3 more weeks to go, huh? Finish up everything. Shasha?
Mine already checked and not do the corrections, and yeah, same with Brenda. I have to add some more with latest literature review because he concerned on the years of the references that I've been using.
Yeah. Okay. So it has to be preferably 2015 and above, lah, huh?
Okay.
All right. Okay, I received somebody's email on not email, text on the case. Nazifa, huh? Nazifa, I've looked at your case study report number 1. Generally, I think you have done it correctly, meaning that everything is flowing through not badly. It's actually quite well written. It's just that, let me open up my thing first. Okay, so you have an introduction and a project description. So you plan to use the same project for the whole 4 case studies, am I right?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, so up to 1.2, the one is all good. Okay, you are talking about this. These are the issues. These are the things that are part of the contract. I think that's fine. Okay, so your introduction is the part 1 is completely fine. Just leave it as it is, and then you'll be applying it to the rest of the 4 example. Okay, contractual issues. So here I think it's the heading that is a bit weird. You are using the writing is okay, meaning that you are trying to describe what is happening. Okay.
Item 2 ka, doctor?
Sorry?
Which item?
Part 2, contractual
Okay.
issues. I'm
Okay.
trying to understand whether you're talking about the issue itself or the chronological of the issues, or you're trying to explain the contract. You should write like this, okay? It's more like the issue is a delay, okay? The delay caused by what? So you talk about the situation first, the involvement of the situation. What is the situation all about? The delay happened and all that. Then is the contractual issues involved. So you have two parts here. Two is let's say the problems, or what we call or you can just directly put delays issues. So you explain on the fact that what is happening, what happened to that, what happened that causes the problem, and what is happening, on the issues, It's about talking about that issue, the delay issues, what causes it, and how much time was delayed. You have to describe it with respect to the project. Okay? And then after that, in the same category, you can write contractual issues that are following, ensuing from the event is EOT and LAD. So then you describe EOT and LAD. Okay? And then but you don't describe it with respect. Don't do like a mixture of general, like project-based and also general, you see. You talk about your event first, what is happening here, and then what are the contractual issues involved, that is the extension of time and also the LAD. These will be the two category of things that will be involved with this particular issue. Yeah, you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, Doctor. I'm take note on that.
Because what I see here is you are looking 2.1, you're talking about extension of time, you're mixing up some of the general things that causes the issue with the theoretical ones, and all that. So it gets a bit confusing, Yeah, like custom delivery can also cause delay. But the thing is this something that is happening for your project, or is it in general? So when you talk about EOT, you can talk about it in general. LAD, you can talk about it in general, but the event itself, take time to talk about the event itself, even if it's in a chronological order, or in a storytelling way, or in a descriptive way, you must address what happened to what is the delay of your project, caused by what. Okay.
Okay.
Then you go to the obligation bit. The obligation, you talk about the main client's obligation. You talk about the contractor's obligation. Contractor's responsibility. What about the SO responsibilities? You need to describe the SO responsibilities also, huh?
SO is not under employer kah, Prof?
Think of it as three parties. Okay. So you have to explain, don't just say three and then main client like this. So what are you trying to describe in this section? You're trying to describe the rights and obligation of all the parties involved in the contract based on the contract document and the clauses, the relevant clauses. So these are their rights and obligation. And then what are you supposed to do? Propose to overcome the situation, or proposal to overcome the situation. Then you are going back to combine the contract clauses, and their responsibilities, and how to tackle on the issue. Okay.
Okay, Prof.
But overall, it's okay. It's just a bit of rearrangement, and also adding on to, let's say, what the beginning of the section, don't leave it empty and just jump straight to, like, for example, 2, contractual issue, 2.1 EOT. You have to, under 2, make a paragraph, a small paragraph, to describe what you're going to talk about in the following section. Yeah. And then 3, for example, what you can talk about with respect to the documents, the contract documents, whatever name, and whichever clauses, for example. And then you better go to the main con, main con, contractor, and also the SO. The subcons, you don't have to talk about it because it's not your, unless it's an issue caused by your subcon. Okay?
Okay.
You clear?
Yes, Prof, clear. Prof
Yeah.
means 4 report for 4 case studies, correct, right?
Yes. And that means you are writing this, you're writing the from 2 onwards, 2, 3, 4. This one you have to repeat 4 times for 4 different issues. One you don't have to. One is a fixed thing already, right?
Mm-mm.
But then the way that you name it, it may have to be like case 1 or something like that first. Like
Okay.
2 is like maybe case 1, contractual issues, for example.
Okay.
Otherwise, how are you going to talk about it when you have like 4 and then after you have 5, and then you have 6? So I want to see how you actually format it like in that way.
Okay, Prof.
Okay?
Thank you. Mm-mm.
No problem. Yeah, but okay, overall okay, definitely okay. Yeah? The approach is good. Just some tinkering time. And I've received an email from Brenda. Brenda, you're going to use the same
I'm using
introduction.
one project for the whole case study.
Okay, so just use the word project background, not introduction. Introduction is the introduction to the report. What is this report about, you see? So project background is project background,
Okay.
Yeah, so you got your case study number 1, possession of site and commencement of work. That's fine. Right. Yeah, again, I think it's the same issue with like with Kasifa just now. Like for example, you write 2, case study 1, possession of site and commencement of work. So case study 1, you put in the topic questions and all that. You have to write a little bit, like before you go into the closes, because otherwise it's very sudden, like pop, you write possession of site 13.1. So you can say that, okay, the contract that are involved for this particular study will be whatever, and these issues here, you have to talk about the issue first, okay?
Okay.
Like what happened, possession of site and also commencement of work, or you are just going for it at a very theoretical way, or what? Like I don't see you talk about the issue at all. Like what happened? Like maybe something happened, and then the delay happened, and then there was so many delays, and then now we look at how to handle it. You see? So you need to describe the issue, leh. Yeah.
I think it's the last paragraph.
No, you have to describe the issue first, okay? So first and foremost, you describe the issue first, like what happened. Then after you finish describing the issue, you can say that the applicable clauses are clause 13.1, okay, possession of site, and then you describe it, and then after that, the next clause is, okay, so you only got one clause, possession of site, okay, right. Then under the acceptance letter and all that, I think that one can be you action already, actually. Oh, yeah, you're writing it like that, like closes, and then after that, the work, like the action. Not sure whether this is a good way of writing, lah. I prefer that you describe your issues first, okay? Is it due to land acquisition? What was the actual issue? And then the thing is the land acquisition thing, that one you have it. Like this one should come first.
Okay.
You count first, and then after that, you describe the clauses that is necessary to be looked at. You describe those clauses with the responsibilities and everything, and then the action that was taken. Okay, which is in the LOA and also the EOT number 1, and showing the EOT and all that. That one is the action already. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you conclude whether the action is in accordance with the contract, or it has been handled better, or it can be handled in another way, maybe. That one is your own conclusion. All right, Brenda,
Okay.
you got it, huh? Same goes with the rest, because your rest of the study is also written in the same way. I think there's nothing wrong with the way, with your issues with the project or anything like that. It's nothing wrong with your writing. It's just the way that you arrange the whole assignments.
Dr. Ting, I don't have many experience in variation order, so I'm not sure what to type in.
Just as usual, describe the problem. What was the problem? And then what makes the problem happen? What makes the problem grow to the way that it is? And then after that, all the clauses that is involving that particular clause. And then if you don't have experience there, then you just look at the clauses and describe what you should have done, based on the clauses.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Anyone else? I think some people showed me their work last week already. Haven't seen work from. I think I've seen something from Jessica. I've seen something from Zifa. I've seen something from Thomas. I think I've seen something from you last week.
From
Yeah,
me, I think, Doctor.
You also, I shared last week, right?
But I think I got some revision on that case study lah.
You want to show me, is it?
Can. Yeah, I want to show.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
Make it a little bit bigger, please.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I will go through. First is the case study number 1. Actually, I done for case study number 1 and number 4. 2 different project actually. Okay, for study number 1, my report will be going like this. Project background, and then the second one is implication of delay lah. Okay, next is project background related to converting existing medical ward actually into the ICU during the COVID pandemic lah. Okay, and then this is the layout plan, work breakdown structure.
Yep. This is about your project, the contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the contract, form of the contract, and then the problem statement lah. Actually, it's the delay on the AVICU for the medical gas. The AVICU was ordered from UK, so got some high demand on that thing, so the delay lah.
Okay, so it's a late material. It's a late delivery of some equipment.
Yeah, so once the delay, so the installation on site also delay lah.
Right, okay, can.
So this one is the root cause of the delay, and then the EOT process, which is involved the clause 43.
Yep.
And then the summary process lah, OEFT procedure, which is the procedure and the task, and which documentation related lah. Okay, LED just simple because the contractor can complete the work before the revised deadline lah. So
Okay.
there is no LED imposed. So the next one is communication plan for the delay mitigation, which is involve the regular meeting with our deputy director every week during the epic week actually. The report by WhatsApp group, everything, something like that. Then contingency plan is the last option we can have in case the material not arrive on site lah.
Oh, very good. I mean, like you all actually went through it quite carefully, huh? That's good. Yeah, because with healthcare, you have to be more extra careful in that way.
Yeah. Then is evaluation of contract provision. The last one is conclusion lah.
What you write in the evaluation of contract provision,
It's more to EOT provision. What is to
or like
review procedure
your
something.
own review on it, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Can you go back to your number 2, the area on number 2.4, is it?
2.4.
Back up all the way up to the part that when you start the 2.1 or something like that.
2.1. 2.1.
Oh wait, hold on here. Okay. So this is the part that you talk about the root causes of the delivery, and then the next section is we've already gone and talk about straight away on the EOT processes.
Yeah.
This is how you map out.
Is it okay, doctor?
I would suggest that you summarize somewhere, maybe between 2.1 or 2.2, or even earlier, some of what are the clauses involved. Just summarize them in terms of the clauses involved. No need to like explain what the clauses, because you've already done the explaining here, you see. So I
Yeah.
think before this or under 2.1, after you talk about the root causes, why don't you combine with the problem? And then 2.1, you make it like a summary of the clauses involved, or not even 2.1, just like saying that, okay, this section will describe the contractual clauses and also the task or the action that is taken based on the contract, for example.
Okay, I think I understand.
That root causes matter is like a repeating of your problem again, So I think you should just bring it up and talk about the problem statement all at the same time under that root causes. Then you don't have to have a 2.1 on root causes and make that straight away into the contract clauses already.
All right, Ken.
I think that's all my comment is for you. It's actually okay, yeah.
All right.
Yes, and very clean, yeah.
Okay, I will
The
proceed.
last part there on the part that on your evaluation is just say that the evaluation on the procedures of the contractual procedures. So I want to see it as your evaluation, okay?
Okay.
Like how well this is done and it's actually good or bad, or I mean, don't use the word good or bad, like, it's reasonably well done, and all that. You can write like that. It's like your evaluation, you see?
Okay, I will proceed to the next case study, which is case study 4. Related to variation orders. This is a different project actually.
Different project.
Yeah, it's related to new hospital Sri Aman lah. The project is completed already, but we'll talk about the variation order.
Same format.
Yeah. Okay, the variation order is related to piling, which is
Hold on here, go up.
okay.
Yeah. Here, right, for example, we talk about 2 variation orders. I think the upper bit is you talk about the problems, isn't it? Then these are the part that you can write 2. Then you say all the contract clauses involved will be as follows, for example. Yeah, so you have got this clauses related. So you can for case 1 also.
Can boleh. So this is the clause related, and then the VO process lah.
This is actually it's done, right?
Yeah, the process from the instruction until the VO being finalized lah.
Yeah, okay. Then your own evaluation lah, kan?
Yeah, actually this project is under JKR, so I'm not involved directly to process the VO, but based on the process, I follow from the project during construction lah.
Yeah, that's fine.
The next one is documentation related to VO. So which is JKR, KPK, APK, PHK, these 3 documentation. The last one is conclusion lah.
When you screenshot things, make sure that you don't. I think when you screenshot things, make sure that it's clear. If it's not clear, then some of these it's better off to put the full copy in the appendix.
Oh, okay, boleh.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Your first one should follow something like this, huh? Try to use the same kind of reporting format.
All right, can Doctor.
Okay, good done. Good job.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Next week we won't have class. I'll put up some pre-recorded lecture for you. So you can just listen to it at your own leisure, but try to listen to it before the end of the semester. Later on, yeah, because after the Raya will be the last week, final week, and then we will move out and have exam already. Yeah, this time everything will be full-fledged of physical exam. So require you to take your study week very carefully, I will give you some tips, don't worry, during the last class, okay? Anyone else want to show me the assignments?
Hello, Doctor.
Yes.
Nicholas here.
Nicholas, yes.
I have a case study one draft, but not to complete yet. Then I need to make sure it follow the track lah, huh? Then can I say, Doctor?
You want to show it? Yeah, can.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see my slide. Sorry, my document.
Can.
Okay. For case study one, I choose project proposed of anti-skid rumble strip and anti-skid pavement at mile 3 flyover.
Okay.
Then has been done by contractor DAL HCM Sdn Bhd. But due to
Your work breakdown, okay.
due to pandemic, then got delay on the material, raw material, and impact the completion date. Some refer as to as critical delay lah.
You have to describe the delay, not just say that not able to complete. You need to show us like what is the chronological, like what happened, and then it's supposed to start on when, and then you didn't do it, and then the contract time was extended from when to when, like be very clear about your issue, not just two sentences like this,
Okay.
Whereas the explanation of the material, you don't have to go through it extensively. It can be just part of the explanation of the contract issue. Like why was it delayed? Was it very difficult to produce material or something like that?
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't need you to spend too many paragraphs talking about that material. I need to talk about the contract problem. Why this material was delayed, what causes the delay, what was the issue, was it shipment, was it, and then when did it happen and how did it happen, and then how much delay was it, when is it supposed to arrive and then it didn't arrive, like after how many days, how many weeks, and then it causes what problem, how many days of delays in the end,
Okay. This means I need do on schedule.
Not really. You just have to tell us, like, based on that particular portion itself, yeah. You don't have to cut. You don't give me an overall schedule. No, that one will be running away from whatever we're looking at now. I'm looking at the contractual issues, not the material issues or not the scheduling issue. I mean, not your schedules, you know. So I don't need you to describe the schedules, but more like, okay, this material is supposed to arrive and when for the job to proceed, like for how long to do the work, and in the end there was a delay, and that delay was due to what, you know, and then explain on the delay event, and then when the material comes, it was already which date, which is about how far away from how much time has lapsed, you see.
Okay.
In the end, how much delay was caused. Okay, section of clauses, okay. This one you need to talk about the contract documents and the relevant clauses first before you talk about LAD and EOT in general like this.
Okay.
Because I don't see you saying that which contract was it and which clauses was covering this and what does it say in the contract, you know, and then yeah, you need to explain that. This is something general, that's fine, you know. But in the end, you need to write with respect to the contract, which is starting from something general and then going into something more detailed.
All right. Then need to elaborate like this. Okay.
Unless it's very necessary. I mean, that means something of your issue is not actually covered in the contract. Then you can bring in the law of Malaysia as part of the contract. So part of the practice, you see. So if it's not necessary, then don't have to be there. I think it's more like you don't describe what was in the contract at all in this part.
All right.
And then this is part that you talk about what was done and then what should have been done. So what you're writing here is what should have been done. Yeah, but this is very general as well. I don't really see you talk about it with respect to the issue and with respect to the contract itself. I don't need textbook material unless you really don't have anything to write at all. Like, for example, people who are not working, not in the project, then you probably don't have much experience. Then yes, we can talk about something general, but even something general must be with respect to your problem with the issues, for example. I mean, like, yeah. You see, your 1, 2, 3, 4, these are actually something that are very general, which is not even related to the material delay that you had, you see? And how to resolve that material delay in the end.
Okay.
When that delay happened, what was the action taken contractually and physically, you see?
Right.
But just now when I think Aisha, she wrote, you know, like she can see that the action taken by different parties, you know, they issue EOT and they request for EOT, you know, and then how to access EOT. These are the things that you should be writing in respect to the issue itself, you see, not so much on just like, oh yeah, when delay happens, we must all quickly do something about it, you know, and then we must avoid making mistake, you know, or we should be more careful with our procurement, blah, blah, blah. If you like this, you are not addressing the question at all, you see?
Okay.
Textbook material. Yeah, this bit here, you are writing proposal to overcome is like what should have been done contractually, what should have been done in order to improve on the time. And then in the end, those things, how does it fit in with your contract? Did they follow the procedures that was given in a contract, or it was done completely in a different way? And then you can conclude whether some improvements needs to be made on the steps. We're not talking about making improvement for delay or overcoming delay, you know. This is not the assignment. The assignment is you have a problem, we need to solve it in terms of the contract, how the contract asks you to solve the problem, and did they do it according to the contract. So the contract is the main focus here, not delay, you see.
Okay, Doctor.
So I think from this writing, I can see you going off a bit in the wrong direction already, lah.
Okay.
You're
I will
right.
check and I will email to Doctor.
Yeah, can. You are writing about how to solve delays. You're not talking about how your problem, this delay in the contract, was actually resolved.
Okay, Doctor.
Understand, Nicholas?
Yeah, understand.
All right.
Yeah,
It's a
thank
good
you.
start. It's okay. It's a good start. Just work harder on it. Okay. It's good that we detect problems, huh? But I think some other people already look at my comments for other people's work. I think you also get a nice feeling of how you should proceed as well. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else wants to do QR code? Everybody in already. Just now I see that there's only 16 of you. Who is missing here today, or 17? Because, yes, 16, 17, yeah, because Eka and Aslinda are together. 17. What happened to the other 4? All right, if there's no other questions, we'll move out for the day. And I'll see you back again after Raya. And for those of you who are celebrating your Hari Raya, Adil Fitri, so wish you all a good time. And don't forget to do your assignment. Okay, celebrate 2 days enough already lah, huh? Get back to work as soon as possible, huh? And those of you who are taking a break during Raya, get a good rest. But also 2 days only, huh? Don't take too long, huh? But in the meantime, until the next week, please email me if you have any issue, okay, or you want me to see your work, right? I think email is better because sometimes I look at my WhatsApp, I see, I reply okay, and then I forgot about it, and then I just completely lost. I owe anybody anything. It can get very, I can lost the WhatsApp, as we go along. So I think WhatsApp is to remind me that you've already emailed me, but not to show your assignment through WhatsApp. Otherwise, I really open it and I reply you and I say, okay, noted. And then after that, I forgot all about it, you see, because there's no more sign that the thing is not read, you see. You have to forgive me. I'm not getting any younger. So we have many classes as well going on. My main classes as well, people looking for me for assignments, projects, for my undergraduate students as well. So I'm confused sometimes. I confuse myself sometimes of what I'm supposed to be doing here. Alright. The other day I was talking to Dr. Lee. She was saying to me that, Dr. Ting, these few times I suddenly have a blank in my mind, like blank, like suddenly I thought and I have a blank, I'm like, I think you just have too much things on your mind, too many tasks that we haven't done, And she said, yeah, it looks like it. She said, I felt like suddenly I'm talking to somebody on certain issue and suddenly I just completely don't know what I'm talking about, like blank in my mind. And it happens to us all the time, okay? All right. Okay, have a good day, everyone. I'll see you guys again in 2 weeks' time. Bye.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Prof.
Doctor.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah. Please remind me after you've emailed me, in case. Have a good time. Have a good Raya. Enjoy yourself. Take care. Thank you, Nickman. I hope you do well.
Thank you, Doctor.
Bye.